I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Sonic Perspectives, I'm pleased to be speaking with Ron Bumblefoot Thal for the release of his new instrumental album, Bumblefoot Returns, that comes out January 24th, 25. I think I have to get used to saying that 25 at the end of all these interviews for a little while.
Yeah, yeah. Years
Well,
are
it's good to speak
flying
with you,
by.
buddy. Thank you for taking the time.
Always a pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you.
I really enjoying the album. I think it's incredible, and it's just such a fun, amazing, talented album. I read that you were doing it during the pandemic. The press release said that you were working on this during the pandemic, and I was just wondering, how was your state of mind while you were putting this together?
I felt like, in a weird way, like I was given this gift of, it's like, here is a whole ton of time that, unexpected. And it's like, oh my God, there's so many things I could do. So as soon as I got home, I finished up this song idea I had for the song Planetary Lockdown,
Mhm.
which I released as a single.
Yeah.
Perfect title
Yes,
because
yes.
that's exactly what was going on, and I put that on this album as well. That song, so this way it'll be on vinyl, CD, and cassette.
Cassette.
Cassette,
Wow.
going
You gotta
all
get dig
out.
my
Just
boom box out for that one, right?
yeah. I mean, it's like this album is almost like I wouldn't say a sequel, but it's sort of a. If I was going to take my very first album that came out 30 years ago, and if it was going to happen now, what would it sound like? What would the technology allow for? So the artwork is kind of reminiscent of the first album in a way, conceptually, like,
Right.
this thing overhead and all the chaos around it. And on the first album, it was this half bee, half foot creature thing,
Yes.
and just all this destruction. And then I had a guitar that looked like that. Now, 30 years later, I have a double neck guitar and just added 30 years of human progress to it all. So it's all out in space and all of that going on.
It's fun.
And yeah, as far as the direction, the first album was very free flowing. Like it didn't stay in one lane musically.
Yeah.
Like usually, a band has a specific sound, and every song sounds like that band. I would just do whatever, like no rules, no,
Mhm.
just on that first album, there'd be one song that was like a Latin acoustic song, and then another one that's like some crazy progressive metal thing, and that's kind of what happens when I'm doing instrumental music, is just whatever I'm feeling at that time that just lights me up and makes me feel like, oh my God, I gotta just bust out a song that has this feeling that I'm feeling right now. And it's all over the damn place because I think my brain and my soul are all over the damn place. So, so why restrict that? Give every side of yourself. I know the rules are in music, you should have one identity and stick to it, and it makes sense. But to me, for me, when it comes to doing solo music, show every angle of who you are, every side, everything, anything that you're into musically,
Mhm.
that you like to do, show it. Something acoustic, something heavy, something light, something orchestral, whatever it is, show it all. That's your opportunity when you do a solo album, is to show every aspect of who you are. So that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
So the pandemic, yes, I had all this time and just immediately started doing tons of studio stuff that I couldn't do while I was on the road all the time.
Right, right.
So I put out that one instrumental single, and then I did two little EPs of like covers of just doing acoustic stuff, and was writing with Derek, and Sharinian, we were working on what might have been a third Sons of Apollo album, but
Right.
turned into Whom Gods Destroy. And while I was just in writing, recording mode, I just got that itch to do all instrumental, and just started writing instrumental songs. Every time I started to sing the melody and start thinking about words, I would just get a big piece of tape and put it over my mouth and stop myself and say, no, 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 the guitar is going to do the melody, the guitar is going to be the voice in
Yes,
this
yes.
music. And did it, and everything was done by June 2023. The album was mixed and done and ready to come out.
Wow.
And I was just, at that point, the next Art of Anarchy album was coming together. The Whom Gods Destroy album was coming together. And it really needed a lot of focus on my part because I was pretty much, producing, co-producing. I was doing all the mixing, writing, I was dealing with the business stuff with the label. I was playing a big role for both bands, and they were both doing the same things at the same time.
Right.
And it was double the work, and I just didn't have the mental energy to
I
do
get it.
that for a third album. So rather than telling all those people to wait and tell the record labels to wait while I put out my own thing, I put my album to the side
Shelves
to
it, yeah,
get
for a little
those
bit.
out and get those done. And then starting April of this year, really started working to make everything happen, which the majority of it was really art related stuff. It was working on that animated music video, which all the crazy scenes that, like the one in the beginning and all the
Yep.
chaos, like that I came up with. And then I was talking to a very talented friend of mine who makes video games and animations and things. And he offered to help with the video. And he brought it to that wonderful level that I could never do myself.
Yeah.
And he made a video game, a Simon in Space video game that was supposed to come out with the single, but Apple flagged the game for review and held it up. So rather than putting it out just for Android and PC-based things, we're waiting until Apple gives the okay so that it
Yeah.
could be available for everyone at the same time.
It's
I
a,
could
yeah, that's a
show,
process.
yeah, and I could
And
show
Simon
you.
is your cat.
Simon is my cat.
Yes.
Yes.
Is he with you now?
He's at home. I'm at the studio, but he's
Oh.
my buddy. He's a lot of fun. He's silly. He's full of personality, and he sleeps curled up on my lap every night, like clockwork, around 8 p.m. for an hour, and then around midnight he comes in, and if I'm lying on my side, he taps me on the leg to move, and I lie on my back and turn my legs into a little circle, and he crawls up between my legs and sleeps there all night, and we're just buddies.
He sounds like a
He's a,
nice cat.
he's a
You talked a little bit about diversity, and I think one of my favorite and fun songs on the album is the diverse song Moonshine Hootenanny, which
ah,
has that country vibe, And tell me about the set of disciplines that it takes required to make music that goes beyond what we know you for as far as rock, heavy metal, prog rock, and stemming into the country realm on this one.
well, I have done just about every type of music there is. It's just
Yeah.
what I get called upon to do is a lot of rock and metal.
Hmm.
But I have worked with opera. I have done classical. I've done jazz.
Oh,
I've done all types of music. And I remember with that one, I was at home just watching this documentary on all different blues players. And it was a dude named Lonnie Johnson that I wasn't really familiar with a lot of his stuff. And he was playing this sort of kind of that rhythm, that like Zydeco, almost Louisiana, spoons on a washboard
yeah.
country thing. Yeah, boom da, chicka taka boom da, chicka taka boom da, chicka taka moonshine hootenanny, moonshine hootenanny. And yeah, and I was like, I like that. And I just got inspired and the vibe got in my head. I just started picturing this rhythm. Boom, ba, ba, da, 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 ba, and I just grabbed the guitar. But I was like, you know what? It's got to be slide. It's got to be on the fretless. Getting
Yeah.
that drag. And just started picturing a whole layout in my head. It stops, boom. Whatever the riffs are. And then just some kind of singable as a like chorus melody where
That's
it
great.
all sort of leads up to. and then starting to take it in weird directions, like that the second verse where it's almost like Zappa with the
Yeah.
xylophone and just. But the funny thing about those riffs is that they're actually staying in time. Like if you keep going like this to the song, when all that chaos happens, like it's actually in time, and then it ventures off into yeah, the middle is kind of, I guess, the Whom Gods Destroy headspace that I was in writing that stuff.
Yeah.
It kept rearing its head in songs like Simon in Space, that intro riff, the middle of Moonshine Hootenanny, where suddenly it goes off into this warped, it's like, where's the one? And it's all super heavy and dragging these low
Yeah.
chromatic notes all over the place. Yeah, so that side of things would show up because I was in Whom Gods Destroy mode mentally as I was writing, and it would just bleed into anything that I was writing. So
You
you
said it was
really,
inspired by blues, but is it? I got my ear said it was country. Is it blues, side of goat, or country, or you don't even want to classify it? It's a little bit of everything.
I guess country,
Country, okay.
but like, yeah, I'm calling it blues, but maybe like 1920s, 30s blues, or
Yeah, yeah.
not true blues. I guess that's a misleading word because for that we think of bum ba bum ba bum
Right. Yep.
ba bum ba bum, and this is definitely country. Yeah, so you're right. Let's call it country for that one.
Well, it's usually out of my scope. So I know rock, heavy metal, hard rock, glam rock. I know that. So my focus on country and all that is very narrow and compressed. So when I hear it, it's like, oh, country,
Old
but
school country, old
old
country.
school country. Yeah.
Not new country. New country is just pop where they just sing
Yes.
with an accent and mention a pickup truck. But
That's
it's
it.
really just pop music.
That's
Where, yeah,
it is. It's very true. They're like the new heavy metal from back when we were younger, It's like they're selling out PNC, they're selling out arenas and they're playing a lot of the stuff that, we used to do. Tight jeans, cool outfits, bright stuff, and they get out there and they rock it out. But it is pop at the heart of it. So I do agree. Um, another great song was the title track, Simon in, oh, excuse me, not the title track, Simon in Space. So tell me, it's a story about your cat, but tell me about the naming of your songs. How do you come up with these crazy names, Simon in Space?
well, that goes back to when Simon first joined the family a couple of years ago. And he has like a million beds all over the house.
Mhm.
Everything is a bed.
Yeah.
And one of them was this circular cow print fluffy bed that he would sit in, and it was by the window, and he would be in it and looking out the window, and we would just joke that he thinks he's in a spaceship flying around space in that thing. That's his spaceship. So we just for our own amusement made an Instagram account called Simon in Space, where it's just him in that cow bed with space backgrounds.
That's so funny. That's
So when I
really
was making
funny.
the song, it sounded like this, like a space journey, like it really
Yeah,
did. And it all just came to me. It's like Simon in Space.
it
This is
works.
the song. So when the new guitar spaceship thing idea was coming for the artwork, I hired someone. I tried to make that art myself, and it was just coming out horribly. So I hired someone to do it, and they came up with something great. And then hired a 3D specialist renderer software dude to convert it to a 3D virtual model.
Mhm.
And that took a while. And but with that, can use it in video, can you never have to redraw the image at a different angle. You just take this 3D model, you
Yeah.
change the perspective and the angle of it, and just, create 2D image. So I was able to make all of these different angles of it. And then I put Simon, my cat, in he's in the cockpit. He's flying the thing. So that's really him. That's his face in there.
That's funny.
And yeah, so made an astronaut and got Simon's face in there. So Simon the astronaut.
That's great. That is
So
great.
now, even for the merch, like there's Simon the Astronaut merch and there's the spaceship with him in it, we made a pet bowl that has Simon the Astronaut on the side of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, so having all kinds of fun with it.
Well, you got to pay him rights, I guess, right?
I do. I owe him
A lot of money.
a lot of treats.
Yeah, and if you were doing this instrumental song now, I bet it would be called Drones Over New Jersey, right?
Which everyone asks me, have you seen the drones? Like, what do you think they are? And I just say, it's Simon.
I have yet to see anything, so we're keeping an eye out. We're kind of excited, and we want to
I
keep an eye out.
I think I saw one at one point. But now, I'm like, to me, it's not a big deal. If these
Yeah,
things were dangerous, they wouldn't want to be seen. They wouldn't be flying low with flashy lights.
right,
They
right.
want to be seen.
I agree.
So obviously, if they want to be seen, to me, and this is going to sound like conspiracy shit, but it's, all right, you have a bunch of drones trying to cause a frenzy and make people concerned, right at the same time that there is a federal regulation bill on drones that is expiring on
Ah,
December 20th. So it can't be a coincidence.
yeah. I just thought it was a bunch of people that had these things messing around, just,
Right.
doing their own little version of terrorizing people. It's like, we're going to freak everybody out, and they send them up. I
What
think it's
is
a
there
little
even
blown out
to
of
freak out
proportion.
about? It's a drone and it's yeah.
Yeah,
It's like this is the world we live in. Selfless, self-driving cars
right.
and drones.
Drones.
Get used to it.
The other part about this album that I really liked is you had two songs one by Steve Vai and one by Brian May. I have to wonder, how did they come about? Did you write the songs and ask them to play, or did you collaborate with them in coming up with them? Because the Brian May song really sounds like a Queen song. I mean,
It has that
it could have come right
melodic
out of
feeling.
Queen.
Yeah. I wrote the songs, and by the time the songs were pretty much done, you just get this feeling like there is just one spirit that can complete the song that can really make it what it's like. You can almost hear the person on it. And so I reached out and I'm grateful that they both said yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was
Did
like that for
Brian,
all
what
the
did Brian
songs.
do? Did he play the whole song with you or parts of it or the lead? What was it? Yeah, I mean,
Um,
the lead throughout the whole thing,
I
but yeah.
try not to ask too much of anyone and just said, here's a section, here's the guitar solo section,
Mhm.
do what you want.
Really?
Yeah. Just grab this little spot there and make it yours. And yeah,
It's a
I
great
didn't
song.
want to impose too much.
Yeah, I
So
get it. I get it. And I love the positivity that that song brings out. And I love the emotion that it comes from. And at least what I pull from it, positive, uplifting. Is that one of the hardest aspects of creating instrumental music is getting and conveying that message out? Or do you really want to just leave it to the listener to decide what emotion they should pull from it?
I find it to be kind of easy. You just, when you have a feeling
Mhm.
and you've been speaking the musical language, for lack of a better term, long enough, it's easy to translate, to take the feeling that you have and convert it into music that conveys that feeling
Got it.
from just decades of writing music and writing for TV, writing for movies, writing for video games, writing with different bands and just writing songs. It really gets to a point where any kind of feeling you have, you know how to make the musical version of that feeling.
Yeah.
It gets that way.
Yeah. Fascinating.
So, yeah, this song reminds me of any moment in your life that you can look back on and say that was one of the once in a lifetime great moments
Right.
that made life good.
Right.
It could be anything. It could be watching your kid get married, or it could be, young kid dancing with their girlfriend at the prom, wherever you're at in life.
Yeah.
Anything like that, but just one of those kind of great moments.
And the
So
title captures that perfectly, One and Forever.
yeah, I had all these possible ideas, and I was going back and forth with Brian,
Wow.
and I was like, "What do you think? What about this one? What about this?" And I was torn. I just could not think of a title. The last thing I had to do for this album was think of the title for that song and just trying to find the right name for it. Like it just
Yeah.
felt like such an important thing where
Right.
really the song defines the album, the title. The song defines the title, not the other way around a
Yeah.
lot of times.
That's great.
So, I mean, I could have called it Fruit Cup, and people would have been like, "Yeah, I love that song, Fruit Cup. It's so beautiful. It reminds me of like one of those moments in your life where." But I wanted it to have the proper title that said it in a simple phrase, and I was like, "Which?" We narrowed it down to like
Mhm.
two, and it was like, "Which one do you like better?" It's like "Once and Forever." I was like, "That's the title. There we go."
No, it's a great song. Are you that close with Brian May that you could just call him up and chat about titles? You're like, hey.
Um, I'm gonna say no. I think it would be really, it's the kind of thing where, like, I think we first were in touch maybe 15 years ago, uh, just emailing a bit, and I try not to bother people.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of people that, over the years, you get to know people, you do things with them. Like, I've played twice on stage with Brian May at these wonderful festivals called Starmus.
Mhm.
It's a combination of astrophysics and music.
Yeah.
And did two of them. I'm going to be doing more stuff next year. And he's he's part of the organization, that made that
Right,
festival.
right.
So we did some really nice things together in the past with that. But I don't go so far as to call myself anyone's buddy or friend or acquaintance or anything. It's just, over time you know more and more people,
Yeah.
and every once in a while you may reach out to somebody for something and
He's in your
just
cell
say
phone.
hello or whatever.
He's in your cell phone directory. Hey, hi, Brian. Happy birthday, buddy.
Speed dial number three.
Yeah.
This one number four. No, no, no.
Right after mom and dad.
Yes, I don't want to like imply that I'm like buddies
Yeah.
with any legends that I grew up on that I have tremendous just admiration for as people and as musicians and everything. It's just, you live long enough and you cross paths with lots of people.
That's great. You said something that earlier that's, spurred a thought in my mind when you said you were taping your mouth for the melody, because I think there's a lot of melody. And I think the guitar takes over the vocal melody in songs, particularly if I'm saying this right, Cintaku?
Cintaku, it is a word, Indonesian, Malaysian word. It means my love. Yes.
Now you want to talk about melody and you want to talk about a vocal line capturing the melody throughout the song. That's it. So it's strange to hear you say you're covering your mouth versus humming the melody, but yet that song is like melody all over it, the
Yeah,
vocal
a
line.
lot of these songs, like even that one, when I first started writing it, I was driving and just the melody came into my head and I started singing it and thought to myself, it's almost too pretty to sing. Like it would
Mhm.
be too like Disney-ish in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
But for guitar, it would really work well.
Yeah.
And I started thinking of words. I was like, no, 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 stop, stop, stop. No, no, guitar. Because that's always what happens
Yeah.
is if I have a nice melody in my head, I always give vocals first choice. And this time I didn't. So there's a lot of singable melodies in the songs, and
Yeah.
at least in the melodic songs, not in the crazy ass songs, but
No. Do you
but
speak?
even in some of the crazy ones, like Simon in Space, that chorus. It
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 works.
almost could be a voice doing that.
Do you spend a lot of time studying vocals and capturing the proper vocal technique for phrasing when you're going to be writing the melodies to some of the songs?
Well, usually I just sing one way and I just sing how I sing,
Yeah.
which over years does change also. The approach changes. Like it could become
Hmm.
more gritty or it could become more vibrato-y or the range changes or anything like that, or just overall tone changes. So you always tend to write for your own voice.
Right.
So when I was younger and my voice could heal quicker from screaming, there was a lot more, going on. But for most of it, being raised on old school metal and singers like Jeff Tate and Bruce Dickinson and Eric Adams, Manowar, my favorite, and of course Rob Halford, and
Yeah.
just a lot of high pitched, high range operatic metal singing. So that's a lot of what I always like to do. Yeah, so you write for your own voice.
Yeah.
Although I'm finding that over the past few years, and I think a big part of it was singing with Asia, it changed because to sing for Asia, I wasn't going to go out there and sing it like, Iron Maiden-y or anything
Yeah.
like that. I mean, I joked about it once. I was talking to someone and doing like a mix of like the Trooper and what do you call it? Heat of the Moment.
Yeah.
And it worked actually.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was like this kind of. It was like, how did I know? How did I do it? It was like, oh, I can't remember. It was like, I never meant to be so bad to you. Like kind of. Yeah. One thing I said that I'd never do. And yeah.
I get it. That sounds, yeah, it does work, right?
So I pretty much unlearned how to sing like that. And relearned how to sing more in the style that fit Asia, which is more chesty, more breathy, less brassy and bright, less vibrato, almost no vibrato,
Yeah.
to get more of that tone and that vibe. And I had to do it enough so that when I'm staring at thousands of people and I don't freak out and immediately go to my comfort way of singing, which is, Bruce Dickinson and that vibe. So I spent 8 hours a day for 2 months straight, every day, just singing the Asia songs and figuring out how to be comfortable with it, what to relax, what to project, where to squeeze, where not to squeeze, where to resonate, until it just kicked in, and that was how I sang. It was like becoming like a character when you're taking on a role as an actor almost, and you have to become that character and just live
Yes.
it 24/7 to nail it down the right way. So I did that, and even every show before I would go on stage, I would sing the entire set backstage. I would, yeah, so that the second time, when I went on stage, it was actually the second time that day that I was doing it.
Warming up.
And so that was really in my head and I was there. And so, yeah, the voice can change and it'll change the way you write if you're writing for your own voice and you're singing differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
Sure. Is there one song on Bumblefoot Returns that best captures where you are now as a guitarist?
Ooh.
Something really took you out of your comfort zone that you're proud of, or something really extravagant?
I mean, each one has something. I feel like Simon in Space, that first song, sort of has everything in there. It has the melody, it has the crazy stuff, it has space and atmosphere, it also has chaos and intensity.
Mhm.
It sort of grabs it all. If I was to go through them all,
That's great.
I don't know. I feel like that one may sum up a little bit of everything. But
Okay.
then there's like Griggstown Crossing that has like a talk box solo, and it feels almost like a bit of a southern rock tip of the hat type
Yeah.
song. The Thread, which is really just a true guitar instrumental song, almost Jeff Beck inspired in ways, or Steve Vai in ways, like that kind of thing. What
Those are good
else?
choices. Those are great songs to be proud of and to call you,
Oh, what
push you out of your limits,
else?
push you to the limit. I want to be respectful to your time. I have one last question. You touched upon
Oh,
it earlier where you said that Sons of Apollo, you had some demos going. How far did the Sons of Apollo's demos get? And would you think we'll ever see any of those demos ever completed on a vinyl, on an album?
well, for Sons of Apollo, like we started writing music in 2020,
Mhm.
Derek and me. And just when we saw for sure that it was not going to be for Sons of Apollo, that it wasn't happening,
Yeah.
we just said, okay, we need to take this into a new band.
Okay.
And then we started working with Dino, and he was wonderful. He really, like the three of us really worked a lot on the songs. And then Yaz joined and Bruno joined, and it became Whom Gods Destroy.
Yeah.
So really, Whom Gods Destroy is the continuation of like the music aspect that Derek and I started with Sons of Apollo, because we
Got it.
were really the main songwriters, and then Jeff would add the vocals once the music was done. And
Right.
he's the one that turned it from wacky music into actual songs. Like Jeff, he can take the
He's good at
craziest
that.
music and just make it something palatable and singable. He has such a gift with that. And Dino, same thing. But Jeff would always like to work on the music when it was finished.
Yeah. That's what he
And I
said.
would always say, come on, write with me, right? Let's build it as we go. He's like, no, that's not how I like to do it. I like to
Yeah.
write on a finished piece of music, the vibe that I get from it and the arrangement of it, and it all comes together that way.
That's great.
With Dino, it was different. He was involved in the song being developed from the beginning,
Yeah.
adding melodies and having ideas like, oh, let's make this part 6 instead of 5. Oh, let's do this only 2 times instead of 3, and like that kind of thing. And yeah, but
Well,
with all of them, with everybody, it was always been just great collaboration and great teamwork. Yeah.
well, listen, I want to thank you so much for your time, for insightful interview and the sharing the inner workings behind your album. And thank you
Pleasure.
for your time and have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
You too. Always a pleasure. Very happy holidays, and we'll talk again in 2025.
I guarantee we will. Take it
Great.
easy. Bye bye,
Have
Ron.
a great one. Bye
You
bye.
too. Bye bye.